the excitement of science is that we are here to do what is hard. And as we always say, you know, if it were easy, everybody would do it.
I really want to make sure that people that have joined my lab are clear where they are going and that my lab can help them get where they want to be.
I think it's really critical to identify people who have a creative spark, because really what we do in the laboratory is we try to discover new things that no one has seen before.
My thing is to be the best mentor that I can be, and to encourage people to find what they want to do for the rest of their life, really.
You solve something, you figure something out, and then nobody can ever take that away from you because it was your project and your solution, and it ends up in the literature, and people know for all posterity that you were the one that did that.
NIAID stands for the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. It's one of 27 institutes and centers at the National Institutes of Health, and in fact, it's the second largest institute. We do basic translational and clinical research in the area of allergy, immunology, and infectious diseases. We have laboratories in several settings. We have most of our laboratories in Bethesda, Maryland, laboratories in Rockville, Maryland, and we have laboratories in a small community in Hamilton, Montana. They're called our Rocky Mountain Labs. And in fact, we have a biosafety level 3 and 4 laboratory out there, but it's housed in the Bitterroot Valley in a small community of about 6,000 people.
So the role of the trainees is, of course, they are learning the technical part of how to do the experiments, what are the tools we have, but I think more important is how to ask a clear question so that you can get a clear answer. And I always tell them it doesn't matter what the answer is as long as it's clear. Because if it's not, if we know that something is not happening, then tells us that we have to look in a different direction, that we're going in the wrong direction, so we have to redirect the course of our thinking.
When I look at trainees and talk to them, what I'm looking for a certain spark. It's something that you can't measure, but I think one way to say is positivity, enthusiasm, and something that makes you feel comfortable talking to that person.
Key things that I look for are, number one, there should be a real, genuine motivation to pursue a career in science or medicine. Usually I find these motivations come from prior life experiences, like having had somebody who's been ill with a disease that we work on, or been really curious about science through one or more projects that they've had in the past. I'd like to hear about that.
People who have this intelligence to understand the type of work that we do, but also have the interest in the subject to pursue it to wherever it takes them, and the passion to work really hard at it.
Most trainees that come here are enthusiastic, energetic young people who have done extremely well in their undergraduate or graduate studies. Some of them are high school students. What I look for personally are people who are excited about science and about medicine, and that see a way to put those two together in one place.
Another thing that's important to me as part of selecting a good candidate is somebody who's going to have the persistence to be able to do an experiment that nobody's ever done before, and to be able to troubleshoot it, to figure out how to get it to work. I think that's very important. Another thing, finally, that's important to me is to be able to work with and to learn from other people who bring different skill sets to the table.
My lab is organized so that I meet with everybody at least once a week. I have one-on-one meetings with all of the trainees, from summer students to postdocs. Some of the senior people who have been in the lab for a year or two, they may be more independent, and I might meet with them only every couple of weeks unless they're writing a paper or involved in a project that we think needs more input. Sometimes I meet with people in small groups as well if they're working together on a project. And we have lab meeting every week. We have breakfast lab meeting. We take it in turns to bring food, and it's a very informal lab meeting. Everybody presents every other week the work that they're doing. We troubleshoot. We talk about what's working, what's not working. And the summer students, the technicians, everybody presents.
Mentoring is a complicated process that must take into account what the goals of the student are, what's the time frame, what's their capacity, and then realistically, what are my goals and my time frame and my capacity. And it is really about putting those together and not overreaching. I can't mentor everybody the same way all the time, and they don't want to be mentored all the same all the time.
There can be a scenario where a trainee, even a postbac who just graduated from college, might actually be driving their own project semi-independently. They would speak with me frequently, and they might have some connections with more senior people within the lab to help them with different procedures. But really, they would be driving the ideas and the design of the experiments and the pace at which the experiments were going. And so that's one end of the spectrum. And the other end of the spectrum, there might, as I mentioned, it might be a team approach where, say, a postbac or even a postdoc would be working with a staff scientist to execute a more complex scientific agenda.
I believe it's very important for people to have their own projects. While this can be intimidating in the beginning for junior people, if they're motivated, they do find that they adapt quickly and they grow and thrive with this. I think it's important, in order to help facilitate these independent projects, that I meet with each person one-on-one every week and provide support in other ways to help them be as successful as possible.
The expectation that one has for a trainee has to be tailored to what they came here for and what they're willing to stay here for. So my expectation for a student who comes for the summer is vastly different than for a student who comes here for a longer period of time. What I want from a summer student is that they come into the lab interested in the question, willing to be challenged, and unafraid of making mistakes.
They have to be self-learners, come up with their own ideas, and those are ideas that we discuss and mold and shape into hopefully productive directions that lead to discovery.
My main expectation is that they're going to do their very best while they're in my lab. And yes, that means work hard. We have, I say to people that come into my lab, we're in a scientific paradise here. You can do whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you that we don't have the money to do this experiment, but you have to want to do it, and you have to take advantage of all the wonderful possibilities there are here. And that's what I want to see in my trainees.
Another thing that's important is to come with an open mind, to have enough energy and passion to put their life ambitions on the table and to try to make them succeed, because this is really a great training opportunity to come to the NIH, figure out if you've got what it takes, and to show the world and yourself that you can make a go of it.
We've had many students that have gone to graduate programs and they come back and have good memories of the lab.
When you see people come into the lab and really start to enjoy science and gain their independence.
Watching each mentee develop to achieve their goals.
When I can look years down the road and see independent people doing what they want to do and being excited about it.
And it's just a thrill to watch them go on and do things that they just thought were not even possible for them.